Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Baz Khuti with Modak, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDIQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to Phil Dutton, co-founder and co-CEO of Solidatus. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
In terms of regulatory needs driving lineage and knowing where your data are and knowing where your hyperlinks are.
If we look at most of the organization that we traditionally work with, so your big financial services firms, your big pharmaceutical firms, your heavily regulated industries, they're quite used to the regulation. So they have a pattern and a process for dealing with it. And so that is being shifted into the cloud. But those big organizations understand how to deal with the regulation because they've been doing it for a long time. I think the real challenge is for organizations who traditionally haven't had to deal with regulation now, who are moving data into the cloud and have this obligation to not one regulation, GDPR, but it could be 20 regulations around data privacy, depending on where they operate. And because we're now a connected society where we can trade anywhere, that creates a whole nother problem. And so we're seeing the regulators understand, certainly in the financial services space, that the same set of controls that they have on-prem need to be applied into the cloud. It can't be we do things better on-prem than we do them in the cloud. Cloud is the opportunity to do things better, right? To engineer things forward rather than kind of go backwards. And so I think we're seeing that a lot of organizations that have previously not had to deal with regulation are now having to deal with it. Cross-border data sharing is now a huge problem for global multinationals.
What other industries are you seeing which are now moving to that, and which sort of regions and geographies do you see that in?
So I think all of the industries that have a lot of personal data are now the ones who are really seeing that next wave of regulation. So your retailers who are, your online retailers for sure, even manufacturers and things like that, you're seeing them as the next tranche of people who are really dealing with that. In terms of the geographies, I think, the US, the UK, Europe are certainly leading this, have been exposed to this, I think, much earlier than some of the other regions. But if you look at, say, APAC as a region, so much more diversity of country in terms of, not only language, but just the amount of countries that are making up that region, and the diversity between them means that actually they've got a really big challenge ahead of them as their regulators start to pick up on the need for
anybody
privacy.
Really owning sort of personal data in any industry really needs to take more sort of governance around it and regulations out there. Do you see any kind of this kind of the stick approach, which is the penalties, which if you don't have these things in place, and then it's kind of the impact of these companies where if they just don't follow these processes, what's kind of the impact to them?
Yeah, I mean, it really is important, I think, for us to focus on the positives, which are this should be something that we want to do, not something that we're forced to do. Okay. The regulators are reacting to what they're seeing in the market. So seeing people not taking data management, data governance, data lineage seriously enough. If you considered what the reaction would be to if I said, look, I'm going to go and build a 50-story building and I'm going to have no plan, no architectural designs for that. I'm just going to say, here is, 1,000 people and they're going to go and build this building for me. I wouldn't be allowed to do that, right? I would be stopped. The regulators would stop me from doing that. So in the data space, it's a bit more difficult, and we're not as mature as that engineering discipline. So I think what they're trying to do is put in place those standards, those policies, those procedures for us to follow. But we have to proactively take the lead. This is as an industry, it's our responsibility.
And if you look at the kind of solutions which Solidatus provides, how do those approaches, from your solution perspective, adopt to different, whether it's a private cloud or a public cloud or different hybrid cloud solutions out there. So how does your product sort of interact with those different kind of deployment models out there where data is residing?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I think we were really, really lucky in that Solidatus was designed in a time where we knew that there was hybrid cloud, and we knew that the cloud was going to be a huge part of the jigsaw. On-prem is still a very large piece, but actually, we were aware of that. So the way that we've designed our software is very, very modern. So you mentioned kind of the deployment pattern. So we can deploy on-prem and in the cloud, whether it's private, whether it's public, it doesn't matter where it's deployed. We're able to do that seamlessly, very, very quickly. So that's a huge advantage for our clients, because we can start in an hour. It's not a 3-week, a 3-month kind of deployment of the product. Equally, once we're in those different regions, we believe in interoperability. So speaking to everybody, it's not about kind of us just speaking to the systems that we know. So API first, SDK led, so that our clients can build custom connectivity to us as they require it, because each of our clients is vastly different. Their tech stack is different. Their cloud strategy is different. So we provide a product which is flexible enough to respond to their needs without us needing to necessarily change it for them. They can change it themselves. So you want to enable, we want to remove, the barriers. We want to make people be able to do things quickly.
That's a great point on that. And I thank you very much today, Phil, for your time and for joining me today. Please visit CDO Magazine for any additional interviews. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Baz.